everyone to the very first interview of our brand new web series. We're all interviewing guests and colleagues here with Emerita Resources. We'll all be discussing recent news releases and just general updates about the company. My name is Vincent Chen. I'm part of the investor relations team here with Emerita. And today, for our very first guest, we have our very own Executive Vice President of Development and Capital Markets, Mr. Ian Parkinson. Welcome.
How are you, Vince?
Good.
Happy Monday to you.
Thank you so much. Happy Monday. So maybe for our newer listeners, maybe just give us a quick introduction as to your background in mining, and as well just a quick introduction to Emerita Resources as a whole, as a company.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Sudbury in a mining family. Went to Laurentian University for my undergrad, and then went to work basically right after graduation with Falconbridge. So worked with Falconbridge for about 10 years in various different forms. Falconbridge moved from Falconbridge and then Noranda for a little while. There was a merger between the two companies. Left Falconbridge in 2006 when Xstrata bought Falconbridge, and then I moved over to the capital markets business. Worked with CIBC World Markets, JP Securities, and Stifel was my last stop before joining David and yourself over here at Emerita.
Awesome. So last year, especially in Q4 in December, it was quite busy. You were over in Seville in Spain hosting our annual site visit tour for investors, brokers, and other high net worth individuals that want to see our projects. So how did it go? And what was some of the feedback that you got from our guests? And maybe as well, what were some of your own personal opinions as to how it went?
So that was all part of an initiative that David and I kind of worked through. We were focused on getting on the road, a lot of marketing in sort of late Q3 into Q4 this year. So there's a series of annual conferences in London and Switzerland. So that was sort of the catalyst for us being in Europe. First conference was the one-to-one conference. It was incredibly busy. My schedule was basically every half hour, a new investor, investment banker, strategic, etc. So half hour speed dating sessions. So it was a good couple of days. I thought the interest was a bit more positive than I'd seen in other conferences in North America, which is good. And I think we saw the market generally improve during that period. So it might not be just isolation of the European market, but I think the sentiment in general improved. And then went from there to the Swiss Mining Institute. So again, similar feedback. Different clientele. I didn't see there wasn't a lot of overlap between the two. People I saw in Switzerland weren't necessarily at one-to-one and vice versa. So it was another 25 approximate new people to hear the Emerita story. Very good use of our time. And then following that, because we were there, we hosted a site tour, like you said, in Seville, where we had a couple of representatives from a couple of Toronto-based investment banks. We had some long-standing supportive shareholders visiting us. We had representation from a couple of local communities on the site tour as well. So all in all, it was a busy November and early December.
Fantastic. So 2023 was obviously a watershed year for the company.
Yeah.
A lot of milestones, a lot of goals that were achieved. Yeah. Most notably, the 43101 maiden resource. We went from the exploration license to the exploitation license. We grew Nuevo Tintillo, acquired more land package, and same with IBW. We acquired land package around IBW itself. So I want to just have you explain maybe a little more detail as to why these milestones were so important for the company, and leading forward towards 2024, what it means for the company as a whole.
Well, I think we achieved those milestones because I think we are an aggressive, focused company. And it's one of the reasons why I joined this team.
Right.
We drilled, I think, 107 drill holes last year. Well over 40,000 meters at IBW. The major milestone for us was that maiden resource. And one point you didn't mention in your introduction was this isn't just our first resource. It's the first resource published that's compliant in a 43-101 perspective in that property package, period. So that was a major event. And we really only started drilling IBW in essence in June of 2022. So Joaquin and the team in Spain, they hit it hard. Right? That was a very, very comprehensive, extensive drill program that culminated with that mineral resource that we put out. I think it was, the press release went out in May. We filed it on CDAR in early June. But what what also we have to keep in mind is that wasn't the end point. That was sort of the beginning. We've continued to drill. I think we've drilled 17 or 18 holes post the publication of that mineral resource. We've demonstrated the resource remains open at depth. So look at that maiden resource as just an initial resource. There will be updates as progress continues. Fingers crossed, but the geology looks very, very encouraging and hopeful that the resource continues to grow at depth. So that was one thing. And then, like you said, we've also moved the permitting forward. And we're doing that in parallel. Exploration is happening on one side, but we ultimately want to be making a construction or production decision at some point in the future, and we need to move the permitting along to do that. So in September, we notified the market that we were starting the process to apply for an exploitation license. In December, we announced that we delivered all the requirements on our part to the regulators. Now they have time to process that information, go through all of their steps. While that's happening, we can continue to explore. Again, the project has not stopped moving forward. We're continuing to explore. Yeah, we're exploring at a slower rate than we were earlier in 2023, but we are moving the project forward, for sure. And then that's part of a bigger, I think, a regional exploration play, where you mentioned getting Infanta Sur. That is a claim. Think of it as a concession that we applied for quite a while back. We got awarded Infanta Sur. There are a bunch of other additional claims that are in that same process. We hope to expand our land package or be granted the right to explore, increase our exploration footprint at Infanta, around Romanera as well, and then at Nuevo Tintillo, right? So Nuevo Tintillo, as an exploration guy, I'm pretty excited about Nuevo Tintillo. We've only drilled one hole so far, but we are in the process of expanding the land package up to about 14,500 meters. Back in April, we announced that we had applied for additions to our exploration land, and again, that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight in Spain, but we're hopeful that we'll get that land granted to us in the next 12, 18 months while we ramp up exploration at Nuevo Tintillo. So yeah, it was an exciting year, exciting first year for me with the team as well. Kind of coincided with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with that being said, 2024, another big year for the company, we expect. Without diving into too much detail about what we don't know yet, what can you kind of explain about what we're working on in the first half of the year, or anything that you can discuss just generally on what we're working on in the first quarter or first half of the company, and what can we expect to release? So
we're ramping up drilling, and the drills took a bit of a time off. We let our technical team have some time with their families over the festive season. So they'll be ramping up again in January. Not sure the exact timing of that, but focus will be on some additional drilling at Romanera primarily. We're not planning to drill too much at Infanta right now, but chasing Romanera at depth. Again, following up on the work that we saw in the second half of 2023, and Nuevo Tintillo. We've only completed one hole. Nuevo Tintillo is very exciting exploration project. For the listeners or for the viewers, it's a property, it's a land package sandwiched between the world famous Rio Tinto mine and First Quantum's Cobre-Las Cruces. It's a package that has not seen any modern day exploration. Pretty excited to see what that has in store for us. We're planning around 3,000 meters of drilling, but it will be really success driven. I think if we hit something that's material, then we'll have to put our heads together and figure out how we approach it going forward. So stay tuned at Nuevo Tintillo. From a permitting perspective, we're going to try and move, be present, help the regulators if required, move towards that exploitation license being granted. We are looking to continue to de-risk IBW. We want to move this towards some form of economic study, likely a PEA as a first step, but ultimately that'll be working towards a full feasibility study at some point in the future. Part of that will be obviously economic studies, basic engineering, which has already started. The MET work, which has been a little delayed, but is ongoing. We'll see at least initial results from a conventional metallurgical flow sheet perspective, what we can do with the resource at IBW, and just look at it as a series of de-risking steps as we move throughout the year. So again,
Absolutely.
de-risking, but continuing exploration, IBW and Nuevo Tintillo.
Absolutely. Well, Ian, thank you for being here today. 2023 again was a huge year for the company itself. And everyone, stay tuned for more interviews going forward with other guests and colleagues within Emerita. And follow our social medias, Twitter, LinkedIn, and everyone have a happy new year.